We're coming into the start of the season, right around the corner. And this year there's a Division 7. This year is a year where there's going to be a higher end. As we sit here taping today, is it pretty definable the schools that are going to be in that playoff? From your point of view, is this a whole bunch about nothing because it's going to be the same 7-8 schools?
I think half of the schools are already defined. We know half of the schools that are going to be in. Everything else is sort of dependent on...
Those half?
Your Chandlers, your Centennials.
Saguaro.
Well, here's the thing. Saguaro plays in 4A. If their schedule ends up being weak and they end up being the number 9 team. Remember, Saguaro won a championship a couple of years ago as the number 7 seed in 4A. So if you can be the strongest team in 4A but lose to a Nevada team and have that affect you to where you don't even have home field advantage in the playoffs or the 4A playoffs when you're clearly a cut above and you're going to blow everyone out by 40 or 50 points, then I think Saguaro's in real danger of not actually making it to this playoff.
We saw it last year, Ralph, when Glendale was ranked ahead of Saguaro because Glendale was undefeated and Saguaro had an out-of-state loss. And those out-of-state games, when you're talking about the 7A, those aren't just showcases. Those are now must-win games for the Sal Points and for the Saguaros.
Yeah, so I think that there's a real possibility that you see like 3 teams from one region all in the East Valley that Chandler happens to play in, Perry happens to play in. And if it ends up just being a regional tournament at 6A, they're going to have to make some adjustments to the way that they actually bring these teams in.
What do you guys make out of 7-on-7s?
You want to take this one?
I want both of you to take it. What do you make out of 7-on-7s?
I see the purpose. I understand why they do it. To me, it's just too much. There are just too many of these. I don't want to call it fake football, but it's unrealistic. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, I was out at an ASU 7-on-7, and Castile beat Saguaro and acted like they won the Super Bowl. If those two teams played in pads on a neutral site with weeks and weeks to prepare, Saguaro would wipe the field with Castile. And I know the Castile coaches were trying to pull those players back, but you see some of these unrealistic expectations because there's no pass rush, and it's just kind of a glorified practice to me.
Okay, timing, all of that people on the pro side will say, it's great for timing. What do you think, Ralph? You're smirking a little bit, so don't hold back.
7-on-7 obviously matters. People can say that it's not real football, and I think we should all just agree here and now, no, it is not football. So we should never have that argument again. We've established it's not real football, but it is the future. With all of the concerns that come with tackle football, you're seeing Tucson Turf, local 7-on-7 outfit, winning national championships. I've been to some of these major tournaments, Adidas 7-on-7 out in Las Vegas. It's the future. It is a spectator sport. It's exciting. There's less of a risk for injury. I believe you will eventually see kids playing 7-on-7 that aren't actually even part of high school football teams. At the same time, while there are some advantages as far as timing and camaraderie and just keeping kids out of trouble altogether, Arizona is constantly at risk of becoming like some of these other states where 7-on-7 and the club scene and handlers have sort of taken over. And so
club basketball, from my view.
Club basketball on the football field.
Yep.
I observed some teams from Florida. I mean, I had a coach from Florida ask me if I could help get his kids recruited, and I said I was there covering Arizona kids, and he tried to fist fight me. And so, you know, and I got a glimpse of really what the future could be if you let this run rampant. These all-star teams, these 7-on-7 teams, unchecked, without the goal of making these kids better men, with less qualified people really in charge. And so I think I see what the AIA is doing by trying to give the schools more control, by letting the high schools really run their own 7-on-7 teams. I worry about the burnout rate of saying to a high school coach, you're now responsible for these guys 365 days a year, and if you don't help run their 7-on-7 teams, you never know who might.
And I don't necessarily agree with you about the risk of injury. I think there is a risk of injury because these players are so hyped to play and these coaches are so hyped to coach. I only think it's a matter of time before you're going to see one of these receivers come across the middle and one of these corners and safeties just not be able to help themselves. And they're not in pads and they're in shell helmets. And because of what you said, there is so much competition as Arizona continues to grow and get better in high school football. Right. I can almost see, especially talking to some of the coaches that I've been in contact with, they're like, yeah, it's just getting a little bit out of hand.
Ralph Amsden with Arizona Varsity, Eric Sorensen, Sports 360. Good stuff from them.